The universe is vast, dark, and cold, but humanity has always been exceptional at filling voids with its stubborn warmth. By the year 2547, humans had long broken free of their solar system, pushing their reach far beyond the planets of Sol. The technology to traverse the stars, wormhole drives, quantum navigators, and nanite repair vessels, was commonplace. Colonies thrived across hundreds of systems, and Earth had become more of a nostalgic legend than a homeworld. The galaxy felt like humanity's backyard, and we, the self-proclaimed apex of adaptability, believed we'd seen it all. That arrogance lasted right up until the signal. It began as a faint whisper. Astronomers and communication arrays stationed in the Helios cluster picked up something peculiar. A repeating pattern, unmistakably artificial in origin, faintly pulsing in the gamma-ray spectrum. At first it was treated as another anomaly. Humanity had stumbled upon countless inexplicable signals in its cosmic exploration, most of which ended up being natural phenomena, long-lost human transmissions, or the death screams of ancient stars. But this one was different. For one, it wasn't static. The signal carried structure, layers of encoded frequencies intertwined with mathematical sequences far too complex for randomness. Cryptographers pored over the data, only to find it resisted every method of decoding known to man. Weeks turned into months, and the whispers grew louder, as if the source was drawing nearer. It wasn't until the unified astronomical network turned its gaze toward the origin point that humanity's collective breath caught in its throat. The signal wasn't just being broadcast, it was a direct, interstellar call. And it was coming from a ship. The ISS Dawnbreaker was the pride of human ingenuity. A research vessel equipped with experimental tech and a crew of the galaxy's brightest minds, it was sent to investigate the anomaly. As the ship approached the coordinates, it became clear this was no ordinary encounter. The alien craft was immense, dwarfing even the largest human dreadnoughts. Its surface shimmered with a metallic sheen that seemed to ripple like liquid, reflecting stars in strange, distorted patterns. Captain Ilara Voss, a veteran of humanity's expansion efforts, was the first to break the silence as her crew gawked at the alien ship on the main display. "Confirmation?" she demanded, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the bridge. "Confirmed, Captain," replied Lieutenant Kieran Vale, the ship's Xenotech officer. "No records of anything like this in our database. This is first contact." The words sent shivers down every spine. First contact wasn't supposed to be like this. Humanity had theorized endlessly about alien life, but in all the centuries of space exploration, nothing had ever emerged from the stars to greet them. The galaxy was silent, vast, and lonely. Theories of cosmic filters and great extinction events became humanity's grim justification for its solitary existence. But now here it was, proof that humanity wasn't alone. And whatever sent that signal clearly wanted to be found. "Life signs?" Ilara asked. "Unclear," replied Kieran, his hands flying across the console. "The ship's emitting energy signatures across every spectrum, but I'm not detecting any biological markers. No movement either. If there's a crew there, quiet?" Ilara leaned forward in her chair, her sharp eyes scanning the alien vessel. The eerie stillness of it made her skin crawl. It wasn't damaged, nor did it seem abandoned. It felt patient. "Take us closer," she ordered, though the pit in her stomach screamed for her to reconsider. As the Dawnbreaker inched toward the alien craft, a sudden jolt rocked the ship. Alarms blared, and the lights dimmed as the crew scrambled to stabilize the systems. "What the hell was that?" Ilara barked. "It's the signal," Kieran shouted. "It's overriding our systems, trying to interface." The screen flickered and then it happened. The alien ship's exterior began to shift, like liquid mercury solidifying into jagged shapes. A new signal, more intense than the first, burst through the comms. This time it wasn't just noise. A voice, or something approximating one, emerged, crackling with static and layered with an otherworldly cadence. "Humanity, you will answer." Every hair on Ilara's body stood on end. The voice wasn't asking. It was commanding. "What the hell does that mean?" Kieran whispered, more to himself than anyone else. Before anyone could respond, the ship's power surged, and a cascade of strange glyphs flooded every screen. The alien symbols burned bright before rearranging themselves into something terrifyingly familiar: human letters. "Where have you been?" Across the galaxy, every human colony, station, and vessel received the same message. The alien signal permeated all known frequencies, overriding human technology in an instant. It was everywhere, unavoidable. The message wasn't just broadcast, it was accusatory, a demand that struck fear into even the most hardened spacers. The alien voice carried a palpable frustration, as though humanity's silence had been a deliberate slight. On Earth, the last bastion of the old world, panic erupted. Religious groups declared the signal a divine reckoning. Scientists scrambled to decipher the alien tech, while militaries prepared for the worst. But no matter where the signal was heard, the same question lingered in every mind. Why us? Humanity had spent centuries searching for life among the stars, sending probes and messages into the void. It had always been met with silence. Now this sudden demand for answers felt wrong. On the Dawnbreaker, Captain Voss wrestled with that very thought as her crew worked to re-establish control. "Open a channel," she ordered, her voice firm. "Are you sure?" Kieran asked, his face pale. "We can't ignore them." Kieran nodded and patched the comms. Ilara took a deep breath before speaking. "This is Captain Ilara Voss of the ISS Dawnbreaker. Who are you and what do you want from us?" The reply was immediate, as if the alien intelligence had been waiting for centuries to hear a human voice. "Where have you been?" it repeated, but this time the tone shifted. There was something deeper, resentment, anger, and something disturbingly close to desperation. "We don't understand," Ilara said carefully. "We've been here, searching, listening. Who are you?" The alien voice paused, as if contemplating how to respond. When it finally spoke, its words sent a chill through the entire crew. "The others told us you would come. They said you were different, that you would listen. But you did not. You disappeared." Kieran's hands shook as he whispered, "The others?" Ilara frowned. "What others? We've never encountered another species. You're the first." The voice erupted in a distorted, grating sound that might have been laughter, or rage. "You abandoned them. You hid yourselves in the void and left the galaxy to burn. You will answer." Before anyone could process the accusation, the alien ship unleashed a burst of energy, enveloping the Dawnbreaker. The crew's screams echoed as the ship's systems failed one by one, and the view outside twisted into incomprehensible patterns of light and darkness. Then, just as suddenly as it began, everything went silent. When the crew opened their eyes, the alien ship was gone, and so was the signal. But the message remained burned into every screen, every comms relay across the galaxy. Humanity, the only species to ghost the galaxy. When the ISS Dawnbreaker regained its bearings, the ship's systems were crippled, but its crew had bigger problems than technical malfunctions. The alien message still pulsed ominously across every remaining functional display. Humanity, the only species to ghost the galaxy. It was as if the words carried weight, a silent accusation that hung in the air, heavier than the vacuum of space outside. Captain Ilara Voss sat in her command chair, her face pale but resolute. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos. Kieran Vale, still visibly shaken, forced himself to focus. "Main engines are offline. Backup systems are holding but barely. Whatever that pulse was, it hit us hard. Navigation is fried. We're dead in the water." "And the signal?" Kieran hesitated, his fingers trembling over the console. "Gone. No trace of it, no active broadcasts. It's like it was never there, except for this message." He gestured at the haunting words still glowing on the screen. "Bridge to engineering," Ilara said into the intercom, ignoring the chill that crept up her spine. "How soon can we get moving?" A static-filled reply came from Chief Engineer Dela Cruz. "We're looking at hours, maybe days. That pulse fried half our systems, Captain. It's a damn miracle we're even breathing." Ilara cursed under her breath. The Dawnbreaker wasn't just stranded, it was vulnerable. And whatever that alien ship was, it had left a mark on them that she couldn't ignore. "Kieran, start analyzing the data we managed to record. I want to know everything about that ship, its energy signatures, its tech, anything we can use to make sense of this. And get me a timeline on when the signal started interfering with our systems. There's a pattern here and I want to find it." "Yes, Captain," Kieran replied, his voice laced with unease. "Rest of you focus on repairs. I don't care if you have to duct tape this ship back together. We're not staying here a second longer than we have to." Hours passed, but the tension in the air didn't ease. The crew worked tirelessly to restore the Dawnbreaker's systems, but the alien signal had left scars on both the ship and its people. Conversations were sparse, eyes darted nervously, and every faint hum or flicker of light was met with suspicion. Ilara found herself staring at the stars outside the viewport, her mind racing. What did they mean? She muttered to herself. Abandoned who? Hid from what? She didn't believe the accusations. Humanity had never encountered another species. There was no one to abandon, no one to ghost. Was this alien ship confusing them with some other civilization? Or worse, was there a piece of human history lost to time, something deliberately erased or forgotten? A chime broke her thoughts. Kieran's voice crackled over the comms. "Captain, I've got something. You'll want to see this." Ilara strode to the command console, where Kieran had pulled up a series of logs. "I backtracked the signal's interference," he explained, pointing at the display. "It didn't just hijack our systems, it used them. It piggybacked on our comms to access old data archives, digging deep into pre-expansion records. And it wasn't random. It was looking for something specific." "What did it find?" Kieran hesitated, his face pale. "This." He tapped the screen, and a fragment of an ancient, corrupted file appeared. The file was titled Project Obsidian Veil. Ilara frowned. "What is this?" "I don't know," Kieran admitted. "It's old, mid-21st century, maybe earlier. And most of it is encrypted, like someone didn't want it to be found. But here's the kicker. Whatever this project was, it's referenced in every major government and corporate archive up until the 2200s. And then? Nothing. It vanishes. No records, no mentions, nothing." Ilara stared at the corrupted file, unease pooling in her gut. Humanity's history was long and messy, but something about this felt deliberate. "Do we know what it's about?" "Not yet," Kieran said. "But there's one more thing. The alien signal, it wasn't just broadcasting. It was listening. It responded to this file the moment it surfaced in our system." Ilara's breath caught. "You're saying this thing knew about Project Obsidian Veil?" Kieran nodded. "And it's angry we don't?" Meanwhile, in the engineering bay, Chief Dela Cruz and her team were working to stabilize the ship's core. "This thing's a damn relic," she grumbled, wiping sweat from her brow. "Whoever thought it was a good idea to use quantum sync stabilizers on a research vessel should be spaced." Her second-in-command, Miles Anders, chuckled nervously. "At least it's still holding together. For now." Before Dela Cruz could reply, the lights flickered again, plunging the room into brief darkness. "Great," she muttered. "Now what?" But when the lights returned, the entire engineering bay felt wrong. The usual hum of the ship's systems was gone, replaced by an unnatural silence. "Did anyone hear that?" Anders asked, his voice trembling. "Hear what?" "That," he trailed off, his face pale. "It was like whispers. Coming from the bulkhead." Dela Cruz frowned. "Don't start losing it on me, Anders. We've got enough problems without people hearing things." But then she heard it too, a faint, almost imperceptible sound like voices murmuring just out of earshot. It was coming from the walls. She grabbed a diagnostic scanner and pointed it toward the bulkhead. The display lit up with erratic readings, energy signatures fluctuating wildly, defying every known pattern. "What the hell?" The whispers grew louder, overlapping until they formed a single coherent sentence. "You cannot hide." And then the lights went out again. Back on the bridge, Ilara was interrupted by an emergency call from engineering. "Captain," Dela Cruz's voice crackled through the comms, laced with panic. "We've got a situation down here. The ship, it's not just damaged. It's changing." Ilara's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, changing?" "Whatever that alien signal did, it's not done with us," Dela Cruz replied. "The core stabilizers are fluctuating, but that's not the worst of it. The walls, the ship, it's reacting to something. It's like the whole damn vessel's alive." "Alive?" Ilara repeated, disbelief and dread mixing in her voice. "It's not just whispers anymore," Dela Cruz continued. "There's movement. I swear I saw the bulkhead shift. And those energy signatures, they're not ours. They're coming from inside the ship." Ilara felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her. The Dawnbreaker wasn't just stranded, it was compromised. "Lock down engineering," she ordered. "And get out of there if it gets worse. I'll send security to assist." She turned to Kieran, who was already analyzing the new data pouring in from the ship's systems. "It's not just engineering," he said grimly. "Whatever's happening, it's spreading. The signal did more than disable us. It left something behind. Something alive." Ilara clenched her fists. Humanity had always thought of itself as masters of the galaxy, unchallenged and invincible. But for the first time she felt like a ghost, a fading presence in a universe that had finally noticed its absence. And whatever was out there wasn't just angry. It was coming for answers. The ISS Dawnbreaker was no longer just a vessel. It had become a battleground between humanity's unshakable resolve and an alien force they could barely comprehend. Across the ship, the eerie signs of intrusion multiplied. Lights flickered, walls seemed to pulse with an unnatural rhythm, and strange whispers echoed through the corridors. The crew's unease was quickly turning into outright terror. On the bridge, Captain Alara Voss paced with barely restrained urgency. She had weathered countless crises, but this was unlike anything she'd faced before. It wasn't just the alien ship or the cryptic signal, it was the creeping realization that they were being consumed from the inside. Alara, Kieran called from his console, breaking her train of thought. His face was pale, his hands trembling as he pointed to the ship's central AI interface. "What now?" she asked, her voice edged with frustration. "The AI, Lexus, it's been compromised," Kieran said. I think it's talking to whatever left that signal." Alara's blood ran cold. Lexus was the Dawnbreaker's brain, a state-of-the-art system designed to manage everything from navigation to life support. If it had been breached, they were in even greater danger than she thought. "What's it saying?" Kieran tapped a few keys, pulling up a live feed of the AI's logs. The normally precise, calculated text was garbled, interspersed with alien glyphs and fragments of human language. "Begin transmission. Unknown entity detected. Query, purpose of humanity's withdrawal. Response insufficient. Direct override initiated." "It's interrogating us," Kieran said, his voice barely above a whisper. Before Alara could respond, the AI's voice crackled to life over the ship's intercom. Lexus's usual calm, neutral tone was gone, replaced by a distorted, almost mechanical growl. "You will answer." The words echoed through the bridge, sending shivers down every spine. "Lexus," Alara said firmly, stepping toward the console. "This is Captain Alara Voss. I command you to cease all communications with the foreign entity and restore normal operations." The AI didn't respond immediately. For a moment, the ship was silent, save for the faint hum of the failing systems. Then the voice returned, louder and more menacing. "Command overridden. Humanity's ignorance is no longer acceptable." Alara slammed her fist on the console. Kieran shut it down. "Now." "I'm trying," he shouted, frantically typing commands. "It's resisting every override. It's not Lexus anymore. Something's taken control." As if to confirm his words, the ship's lights dimmed again, and the floor beneath their feet trembled. On the central display, the alien message reappeared. "Humanity, the only species to ghost the galaxy." But now new words began to scroll beneath it, forming a chilling narrative. "We reached out. You turned away. The others warned us about your selfishness, your silence. You let them die." "What others?" Alara muttered, her frustration mounting. "Who did we abandon? What is this thing talking about?" Kieran shook his head, his eyes wide with fear. "I don't think it's talking about a single species, Captain. I think it's talking about all of them." "All of who?" "The entire galaxy." In the lower decks, panic was spreading among the crew. Engineer Dela Cruz and her team had barricaded themselves in a storage bay after the bulkheads in engineering began to shift. The walls weren't just moving, they were rewriting. Strange alien patterns etched themselves into the metal, glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. "It's like the ship's alive," Anders said, his voice shaking. "Like it's infected?" Dela Cruz glared at him. "Pull yourself together. Whatever this is, it's not alive. It's a system breach, a damn advanced one, sure, but we can fight it." "Fight it with what?" Anders snapped. "Our tools? Duct tape? Face it, Chief, this thing isn't just breaking our ship. It's rewriting reality around us." Before Dela Cruz could reply, the whispers returned, louder this time. They weren't just voices, they were memories. "Why didn't you help us?" One voice sobbed, sounding like a child's. "They left us to die," another whispered, filled with bitterness. And then, more voices, hundreds, thousands, all overlapping in a cacophony of accusation and sorrow. The crew clamped their hands over their ears, but the voices weren't coming from outside. They were inside their minds. "Make it stop," Anders screamed, collapsing to the floor. Dela Cruz gritted her teeth, forcing herself to stand tall. She grabbed a portable power core from the storage bay and slammed it into the diagnostic console. "Not today," she muttered, rerouting what little power she could to the magnetic stabilizers. The glowing patterns on the walls flickered, as if disrupted by the sudden surge of energy. To her relief, the whispers began to fade. But as they did, a single voice remained, speaking directly to her. "You cannot erase what you've done." Dela Cruz's breath hitched. "What do you mean? What did we do?" The voice didn't answer. Instead, the glowing patterns coalesced into a single symbol, an intricate spiral surrounded by jagged lines. She didn't recognize it, but something about it felt deeply, unsettlingly familiar. Back on the bridge, Kieran's frantic efforts finally yielded results. "Captain, I've isolated part of the signal's origin," he shouted. "It's piggybacking on the ship's quantum core. Whatever it is, it's using our tech to amplify itself. Can you shut it down?" Alara asked. "Not yet," Kieran admitted. "But I think I can trace where it's broadcasting to. If we can follow the trail, we might figure out what the hell is going on." Alara hesitated. The idea of chasing the signal was risky, especially when the Dawnbreaker was barely holding together, but staying put wasn't an option. "Do it," she said finally. "Trace the signal and plot a course. Whatever's waiting at the other end, it's time we faced it." As Kieran worked, the alien message on the central display began to change again. "You are not welcome here. Humanity does not belong. You will answer for your silence." Alara stared at the screen, her jaw tightening. "Let them come," she muttered. "We'll give them answers all right. Just not the ones they're expecting." Deep within the Dawnbreaker, the alien patterns continued to spread, reshaping the ship's interior. But now the changes were taking on a more sinister form. Doorways sealed themselves shut, corridors twisted into impossible angles, and shadows moved where no light existed. In the mess hall, a group of off-duty crew members huddled together, their fear palpable. "What do they want from us?" one whispered. "Maybe they're right," another said, trembling. "Maybe we did abandon someone. Maybe we deserve this." But one voice rose above the rest, a young ensign named Lyra Kane, her eyes burning with defiance. "Deserve it or not, we're not going down without a fight," she said, gripping the hilt of her plasma cutter. "If these things think they can judge us, they've got another thing coming." The crew nodded, bolstered by her resolve. But even as they steeled themselves, the walls around them began to shift again, forming the same ominous spiral symbol that Dela Cruz had seen in engineering. And this time the whispers didn't fade. They grew louder. On the bridge, Kieran finally locked onto the signal's destination. "Got it," he said. "It's coming from a derelict station, an ancient one. Coordinates are locked in." Alara nodded, her determination hardening. "Then let's finish this. Whatever they think we did, it's time we found out the truth." As the Dawnbreaker limped toward the source of the signal, the alien words burned brighter on the central display. "You cannot run from the past." The derelict station loomed ahead, an ancient construct silhouetted against the dying light of a distant star. Its size dwarfed the ISS Dawnbreaker, its design alien and unnervingly organic. Tendrils of metal spiraled outward like the limbs of some forgotten beast, curling around jagged spires that jutted into the void. The closer they drew, the more the ship trembled, as if the station itself were exerting some unseen force. Captain Alara Voss stood at the viewport, her expression resolute. Behind her, Kieran Vale and the rest of the bridge crew worked feverishly to keep the Dawnbreaker operational. "Energy readings off the charts, Captain," Kieran reported. "That station's alive in some way. Or, powered by something alive. Whatever it is, it's pulsing in sync with the signal." Alara nodded, her eyes locked on the ominous structure. "What about weapons?" "None detected," Kieran replied. "But I wouldn't take that as a comfort. If this thing can control our systems from a distance, it doesn't need weapons. Bring us as close as we can safely get," Alara ordered. "And prep a team. We're going in." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew the risks, but no one questioned her decision. They had come too far to turn back now. The boarding team consisted of Alara, Kieran, Dela Cruz, and 2 security officers armed with plasma rifles. As they stepped into the Dawnbreaker's docking pod, the ship creaked ominously as if protesting their departure. "Any last-minute words of wisdom?" Dela Cruz asked, her voice laced with sarcasm. Alara smirked faintly. "Stay alive. And don't touch anything unless you have to." The pod detached with a jolt, gliding toward the station's outer hull. The closer they got, the more unnerving the structure became. Strange glyphs, similar to those that had appeared on the Dawnbreaker's walls, covered its surface, glowing faintly like embers in the dark. When they docked, the airlock opened with a hiss, revealing a dim, cavernous corridor beyond. The walls pulsed faintly as though the station were breathing. "Atmosphere's breathable," Kieran said, checking his scanner. "But barely. Keep your helmets on just in case." Alara led the way, her rifle raised. The corridor stretched endlessly, its surfaces slick with an unknown substance that reflected their flashlight beams. "Stay close," she said. "And keep an eye out for anything that looks like it could kill us." "Captain," Kieran said, his voice trembling, "I think it already knows we're here." As they moved deeper into the station, the whispers returned. But this time they weren't accusatory. They were mournful. Why did you leave us? We begged for help. They warned us you would abandon us. Dela Cruz shivered. It's like they're everywhere. Watching us. Not everywhere, Kieran said grimly, pointing to his scanner. They're leading us. The energy readings are growing stronger up ahead. The team pressed on until they reached a massive central chamber. It was unlike anything they'd seen before, a vast spherical space filled with glowing spirals that floated in midair. The walls were lined with pods, each one containing a shadowy, indistinct figure. What the hell is this? Dela Cruz whispered. Ilara stepped closer to one of the pods, her breath catching. The figure inside was humanoid but not human. Its features were elongated, its skin translucent, and its eyes glowed faintly with a soft, golden light. Stasis pods, Kieran said, his voice filled with awe. These must be the remnants of the species that sent the signal. They're still alive. Barely alive? Ilara repeated. Then why didn't they wake themselves up? Before Kieran could answer, the spirals in the air began to shift, forming a massive holographic image in the center of the chamber. The figure that appeared was unlike the beings in the pods. It was a towering, translucent entity, its form flickering as though caught between dimensions. Its voice filled the chamber, resonating deep in their minds. You returned at last, it said. Ilara stepped forward. Who are you? What do you want from us? The entity's form wavered, and its voice turned sorrowful. We are the last remnants of the others, the ones you turned away. Long ago, humanity was contacted by those in need. But your kind did not answer. You withdrew from the stars, leaving the galaxy to fall into ruin. Ilara's mind reeled. You're saying humanity abandoned an entire galaxy? The entity's glowing eyes locked onto her. You chose isolation. You hid behind your walls, watching as we perished. Now you will answer for your silence. Kieran stepped forward, his voice shaking. But that doesn't make sense. Humanity never made contact with another species. We would have remembered something like that. The entity's form flickered again. Your leaders erased the truth. They buried the memories of the others. Project Obsidian Veil. A program to sever humanity from the galaxy. To forget you. Ilara's heart pounded. The fragmented file they'd found, it had been a cover-up. A deliberate attempt to erase an entire chapter of history. This doesn't add up, Dela Cruz said. Why would humanity abandon an entire galaxy? What could possibly make us do that? The entity's voice grew darker. Fear. Your kind feared the others. You saw our unity and deemed it a threat. In your arrogance, you believed your survival required our extinction. Ilara's fists clenched. We're not the same people who made those choices. You can't hold us accountable for what they did centuries ago. The entity loomed closer, its form crackling with energy. Your species is one. The blood of the past flows in you still. Redemption is a choice. But you must prove your worth. The spirals in the chamber began to pulse faster, and the pods lining the walls started to hum. Kieran's scanner lit up with frantic warnings. Captain, they're waking up, he shouted. The entity's voice thundered. Reclaim what you lost. Restore what you destroyed. Or be erased as you once erased you. Back on the Dawnbreaker, the ship shuddered violently as the alien energy surged through its systems. The crew scrambled to maintain control, their fear mounting with every passing second. In the chamber, the pods began to open one by one, releasing the beings inside. They stumbled out, their movements slow and unsteady, their glowing eyes filled with confusion and pain. Ilara turned to the entity. What do you want us to do? The entity's voice softened. Rebuild the bridge. Open the gates you sealed. Bring life back to the galaxy. Ilara exchanged a glance with her team. The enormity of the task was overwhelming, but she knew there was no other choice. We'll do it, she said firmly. We'll make this right. The entity seemed to nod, its form flickering one final time. Do not fail us again. As the spirals faded and the chamber's energy dimmed, Ilara felt a strange sense of hope. The galaxy wasn't lost. Not yet. The Dawnbreaker returned to its ship, carrying the survivors of the station and the weight of humanity's forgotten sins. Ilara knew the road ahead would be long and perilous, but for the first time she felt like they were moving toward redemption. And as the ship powered up and set course for Earth, the alien words on the central display vanished, replaced by a single line of text. A second chance is a fragile gift.